Hello friends, welcome to today's session. Today's session is about how to read the modern Indian history. Now, as we all know, the prelims exam is coming in June 18th, 2017. So, we thought that we would present a lecture series on the modern Indian history. Not much. We are planning to cover it within 5 to 6 classes, at max 7 classes. That makes 7 lectures. So like if you are finding it very boring to read it all by yourself, you can just listen to these lectures. These lectures might help you, and you can listen to these lectures and even mark in your textbook, and then if you go through it once, I think it will help you, and you will feel very nice to read about it. So let's begin. The first chapter is the revolt of 1857. Now, whenever you are reading about a revolt or like any other event that is happening, there are some basic questions which you should keep in your mind. Firstly, what is causing that particular event to take place? Now, there are two types of causes: the immediate cause, which just triggers the event, and the tertiary causes, which has been occurring for a long time, but somehow it did not trigger the event. Okay. Now next we will move on to learn how that particular event began. Like it must have begun from a particular place, and how did it spread, and then we will move on to see who are the important persons, or what are the important personalities which we should remember regarding a particular event that we are reading. And then see, mostly before getting independence, most of the movements, most of the revolts that occurred quite earlier, like revolt of 1857, which is even before 1905. So these revolts, though they occurred, they were suppressed by the British. So we need to know how did they get suppressed, and what were the causes of the failures of such revolts. Okay, and what are the tiny things, changes that came after the revolt got suppressed. So let's begin. Now, the revolt of 1857, firstly, you should have in mind that people from all sectors of society had participated in this particular revolt, and that's why it's very important in the history, Indian history. Like the zamindars, the sepoys, the peasants, traders, artisans, pandits, malvis. So an MCQ might come from this part, that who are the particular sections of people who had participated in the revolt of 1857. So in that case, you have to mark that particular option, which will contain almost all, like pandits, malvis, traders, artisans, peasants, zamindars, all the people from different stratas of the society. Next, we move on to what are the tertiary causes that led to the revolt of 1857. Firstly, you see, the main was the economic cause. Now, in the economic cause, we all know, like if we have gone through the medieval history, we know that several revenue settlements had taken place: the zamindari, the rayatwari, the mahalwari. So there was the heavy taxation, and that's why the peasants, they had to resort to loans from the money lenders at very high rates, and often they could not repay those loans, and the money lenders, what they did, they used to evict them from their lands. So land in this way moved from the hands of the cultivators to the non-cultivators. Even in case of artisans, what happened, that Britishers used to pick up the raw materials from India, and manufacture and processing they used to do in their place, and then the final goods they used to dump in. So in this way, it discouraged Indian handicrafts and promoted British goods. So the highly skilled Indian craftsmen, all those who were there, they were obviously forced to look for alternate sources of earning, and so this led to the loss of our handicrafts, and also there are many modern industries which were supposed to develop on the basis of these handicraft. They could not develop, so we were at a loss. The artisans were at a loss, the peasants were at a loss economically. And even in this zamindari system in India, traditionally zamindars were the aristocrat people in the villages who used to collect the taxes. But in the zamindari system, they were mere agents of British. They used to collect the tax and give it to the British. So they did not have that aristocracy or the power they had earlier. So you see, this made them this angered them against the British. So these are the three subparts under the economic cause. Then we have the political cause. Political cause, we all know, the subsidiary alliance, the doctrine of lapse, all these policies with which the Britishers wanted to take away the land from our kings and zamindars. So they were angered by these political their effective control of the Britishers. Next we come to the administrative causes. Administrative causes, there is nothing much, but the main thing that was the officials that were there, especially the low ranking ones, and the police, the law courts. So they were imparted a foreign and an alien look by the Indians, because they mostly belonged to the Britishers side. Hardly very few Indians were recruited. Then another important cause was socio-religious cause. So the activities of the Christian missionaries, like setting up of schools and then imparting education which was related to a particular religion, and then supporting widow remarriage, abolition of sati. So these things were seen by the Britishers as an interference. By the Indians. These things were seen by the Indians as an interference by the aliens, that is the Britishers, in their customs. Then another thing was discontent among the sepoys. Like they were restricted on wearing the sectarian mask that sometimes they wear, and they were even paid less than their British counterparts. So and even when they went to serve in the foreign land, they were not given allowance. So that is called bhatta. So these are the some terms which also you should remember while learning the main causes, like bhatta. So MCQ might come, what is bhatta? It is the service, foreign service allowance that was supposed to be given to the sepoys when they serve in an alien land. So another thing, there are two acts which you should remember: the General Service Enlistment Act and the Religious Disabilities Act. So just remember these two acts. The Religious Disabilities Act is the one which modified Hindu customs. For instance, declaring that a change of religion did not debar a son from inheriting the property of his father. Okay, so this was an act that was passed by the Britishers. And another is the General Service Enlistment Act, which decreed that all future recruits to the Bengal Army would have to give an undertaking to serve anywhere their service as might be required by the government. So these are mostly the the tertiary causes that were responsible for the revolt of 1857. And another thing which you should always remember is that all the causes are always not occurring inside the country. Some causes that are responsible also belong to the outer world, that is international events. So international events are also responsible, because you see, for example, sometimes if suppose in a situation you are frightened, but your friend is brave and he or she moves ahead and maybe gets into a situation, and then you gain that think that okay, if he is not afraid, then why am I, and then you also move forward. So similarly, taking into consideration the world events like the first Afghan war, the Crimean wars, the rebellions in different parts of the world. So Indians also got a feeling like that, if we are being tortured so much, why not move forward and go for a revolt. Now, apart from these tertiary causes, the main cause that was responsible for the revolt is the mixing of bone dust and introduction of the Enfield rifle. Because the cartridge of that rifle, it had to be bitten off before loading, and that grease that was made up of beef and pig fat, and we know that it is against two religions, both Hindus and the Muslims. So these raised severe discontent among the sepoys because it was against their religion, against their thought, and against their feelings. So this was the immediate cause. So if MCQ comes on what is the immediate cause of the revolt of 1857, then this is the thing which you have to mark, not the tertiary causes. Okay, so now you have to know certain other facts about the revolt, like from where it began and how it spread. So it began from the place, you remember the place name Behrampur, and the person's name who started it, so his name was Mangal Pandey. Okay, and then it went on to Meerut. So there, like people together, they killed certain officers of the British, and they just unfurled the banner of the revolt. And after that, all of them together, they set off for Delhi and made Bahadur Shah Zafar, that is Bahadur Shah II. So again, another thing you should keep in mind is that whenever Bahadur Shah Zafar is being talked about, the same person is referred to as Bahadur Shah II. So he was proclaimed the Emperor of India. So initially, what did he do? He wrote letters to all the chiefs and rulers of India, urging them to organize a confederacy of Indian states to fight and replace the British regime. And the entire Bengal army, they also stood up in revolt, and it spread to parts of Awadh, Rohilkhand, Bundelkhand, and Bihar, East Punjab. So it spread all over, and here all participated, as I told you, the peasants, artisans, zamindars, priests, civil servants. So it gave the revolt a character in a way that everyone was united, like it showed that the character of unity. So what did the peasants and zamindars do? They had grievances against money lenders. So just think, whenever you get stuck, you should think that why, like on whom were they angry. So they were angry on the money lenders. So definitely they will attack the money lenders who had displaced them from their land, deprived them. So what did they do? They went and just set all the records, their debt records, on fire, so that no records will be left afterwards, and so they did not have to repay their debt. In this way they will get their land back. That's why they attacked the money lenders. Another thing is that you have to remember what are tehsils. Tehsils are the revenue officers, and those who collect the revenue, they were known as the tehsildar. So these are the two terms you should remember. And these people, they attacked even the British established law courts, these tehsils, and all these things. Now, several people participated in the revolt, we all know, but there are certain famous personalities which you should remember for your MCQ purposes. Like for example, from Delhi, we had General Bhakt Khan. From Kanpur, we had Nana Sahib. From Lucknow, we had Begum Hazrat Mahal. From Bareilly, we had Khan Bahadur. From Bihar, we had Kunwar Singh. Faizabad, Maulavi Ahmadullah, and from Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. So you have to remember this, just this much, like the center and who is the famous personality who fought the revolt from that particular center. Now, so all of them fought. They fought with their full energy, with full heart. And then what happened finally? Finally, you see, at the end of the day, we were much less equipped than the Britishers. Our technology was far behind than them, and there were many causes due to which we failed finally to make the revolt a successful one. So the Britishers captured Delhi, and Bahadur Shah Zafar was taken as a prisoner, and finally, one by one, most of the people got killed, and all those who survived, even they were suppressed by the Britishers. But one thing which we should remember from both prelims and the mains perspective is that in this revolt we found a Hindu-Muslim unity factor, which is very important from both prelims MCQ point of view as well as mains answer writing point of view. Whenever you are given to write about the revolt of 1857, questions come about revolt of 1857, somewhere in your answer you should mention about this Hindu-Muslim unity factor. Because you see, even if so many Hindus and Muslims were involved, together they took a decision to make Bahadur Shah Zafar the emperor, the leader. So they were like they had friendly attitude towards each other. And as soon as the revolt was started, so immediate banning of cow slaughter, once it was successful in a particular area, it was ordered. So these are some of the things which we see as a Hindu-Muslim unity factor. Now we should know what are the causes due to which the revolt got suppressed. I mean, why couldn't Indians be successful? First is that we had a limited territorial spread, because certain classes and groups like the big zamindars and even talukdars from Awadh, they supported the British. They did not support their native Indians. Then is that the modern educated Indians, that is a middle class that was rising at that time, who were educated mostly on the lines of the Western education. So they thought that if British would go away, then the era of modernization would never come to India. So they supported the British. And most of the Indian rulers, they thought that we should help the British. They were loyal to the British, and they did not help their fellow brothers and sisters. And again, I told you, we were poorly equipped. We had backdated technology. They had electric telegraph. Britishers, they had electric telegraph. So even before we could make any movements, so they used to inform each other that see, the rebels are coming from this side, that side. So we did not have that scope, so we lacked there also. And again, the last thing is that which you will find in most of the revolts and wars, that is lack of unity among the participants. So initially they were united, but with passage of time that unity was lost. And considering the nature of the revolt, some scholars, they call it to be the first war of independence and so on. And but some again say that it is a mere sepoy mutiny. So revolt of 1857, we saw what are the causes of the revolt, the tertiary cause, the main cause, how did the revolt spread, the beginning and how did it spread, the famous centers of the revolt, and what are the famous personalities who fought from those centers, why did the revolt get suppressed and how did it get suppressed, and what was the nature of the revolt. Now we will move on to the last part, that is the consequence of the revolt. Now what happened as a result of the revolt? Some changes took place. The most important among them is that the direct responsibility of administration of the country was assumed by the British Crown. So earlier it was under the company's rule, but now the British Crown, it went under the direct responsibility of that, and company rule was abolished. And assumption of the government of India by the sovereign of Great Britain was announced by Lord Canning at the Darbar in Allahabad. and this is known as the Queen's Proclamation or Kaisar-e-Hind. So these are the terms which you should remember again from the MCQ perspective. And the other points which are not so important but which you should remember again from writing your mains answers is that Britishers promised to respect the dignity and rights of the native princes, and Indian states were henceforth to recognize the paramountcy of the British crowns and were to be treated as parts of a single church. Okay, but again, the Britishers, they had in their mind that okay, we will just make a show of that, okay, we will respect you, this, that, but at the back of their mind they had the idea of divide and rule policy, which we will see in the coming chapters how they had implemented that policy. And racial hatred and suspicion between the Indians and the English were aggravated. So that's all from the revolt of 1857. So you see, it takes hardly 20 to 25 minutes to just memorize everything about revolt of 1857. It's a simple chapter, but again there are many important facts which we should remember. So you can just listen to this lecture or go through the book or mark it in your book, but you should revise at any cost. We should all revise or else we will forget. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a good day.